Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rachel Stockman, in for Jesse Weber. This is the morning docket. It is 9 a.m. on Monday, and we already have a live trial going on in Florida. The case against Christopher Vasata, who is accused of killing Sean Henry, Brandy Sally, and Kelly Doherty during a Super Bowl party gone horribly wrong. Right now, on the stand is a crucial witness in all of this. He is the man who actually hosted that Super Bowl party at his rented home. Take a listen. All right, we're inside the case against Christopher Vasata going on in a Florida courtroom. Right now, a key witness in this trial. He's the person that was actually hosting the Super Bowl party when this event occurred, when the shooting occurred. He also is an admitted drug dealer and an admitted arms dealer. I want to bring in my panel of guests. Ashley Dilberto, she joins me via Skype, and the one and only Julie Rendelman, also here on set with me. Julie, really quickly, what do you make of this direct examination?
Brilliant. People don't get enough credit. Prosecutors, this is a prosecutor that is so concise and knows exactly what to ask, so the jury understands anything that's going on from beginning to end.
And Ashley, why is this witness so critical?
Well, this is the man who was hosting the Super Bowl party. I think these questions are going to be really key in determining the relationship among all parties involved. They're starting to discuss Luke, who, as we know, the defendant says that Luke was actually the killer here and not himself. So these are interesting questions and really relevant answers for the jury to hear.
Charles Vorpagel on the stand. He's a critical witness in all of this. It was his house where he was having this get-together with friends, where the shooting happened, and he was just describing for us the moments before and after the shooting, how he saw 2 to 3 men. Obviously, he had trouble actually identifying them because it was so dark. I want to bring in really quickly my guest. Ashley Dilberto joins me via Skype. Ashley, your reaction to what you've been hearing very quickly so far.
Well, I think the most relevant and interesting part of his testimony so far is that he's now saying there's 2 to 3 men. In the defendant's opening statements, if you remember, they claimed that it was actually a third gunman. It was not Marcus nor the defendant in this case, but it was a man named Luke who was the shooter. The fact that this key witness, who was an eyewitness and maybe the only eyewitness who's going to testify for the prosecution, is saying that there might be a third individual, that may be all the prosecution needs, or all the defense needs, to cast a reasonable doubt in this case.
What do you think, Ash?
Julie,
you're not.
It's Monday. It's Monday. I think the issue, keep in mind that they can also argue acting in concert. So it's not necessarily who pulled the trigger, but did they act together? And the question is going to be, at the end of the day, does the forensics plus all the other, circumstantial evidence plus what this witness says establish that acting together they came there to kill these 3 individuals?
And listen, this guy's a 4-time convicted felon, but I think, and I think you guys would both agree, he comes off very credible. It doesn't seem like he's lying. He seems to remember the events of that evening very clearly, despite the fact he was on drugs. All right, we're just listening to this key witness, Charles Vorpagel. He owned the house, well, he was renting the house where this shooting happened. And he's describing what happened. Also, this is really all direct right now, so the prosecution is trying to get over some of the hurdles that the defense is going to ask him about. I want to bring in my panel. Julie Rendelman's with me and Ashley Dilberto via Skype. First to you, Julie. What do you make of his testimony so far? There are some clear holes here, no?
Look, we know that he had previously said that the individuals were wearing masks, so he has changed his story. I think one of the things the prosecution is trying to say is that there were certain times where he was drugged up at the hospital, so that may be why he may have not said things the same way he's saying them now. Cross-examination is really going to dictate at the end of the day how well he's going to do.
Really quickly, Ashley, and then we can go back to testimony. Do you think it matters that he admittedly was high on drugs when this all happened?
Interestingly enough, despite the fact that he was high and he admits to using drugs and consuming alcohol prior to the incident, he does seem to have a pretty keen recollection of the events and more or less consistent with his recollection then and now. So I find it pretty credible.
All right, let's listen back into court right now. All right, we're listening to some of the cross-examination for this key witness here. Ashley Dilberto, how do you think it's going so far?
Well, so far, I think the defense is doing a great job at attempting to discredit this witness. He was on a lot of drugs and alcohol, and he admits that. So I think they're doing a good job at trying to discredit him and his recollection of the events so far.
Julie?
I think it's too. I mean, he's only asked about. She's asked about 10 questions. You know, we all know he's a drug user and a drug dealer and a gun dealer. I think the critical issue is whether he's inconsistent when it comes to these events.
Actual statements, and the jurors obviously are going to have to get over that fact if they want to buy into his testimony and the prosecution's theory of what happened. The defense attorney seemed to be losing a little bit of momentum here during her cross-examination. I don't know about you, Julie, but I find cross-examinations that move along quite quickly seem to be most effective. How do you think she's doing right now?
It's slowing down, and remember, the jury's listening and waiting, and they're going to lose patience, especially because we're not even anywhere near the actual events that happened. So
she's taken this very, very slow, which I guess can be a good thing, but juries have limited patience, Ashley Dilberto.
That's exactly right. So I think what she's trying to do here, I understand what she's trying to do. She's trying to prove that Warpagel did have some kind of monetary tie to this friend who was allegedly robbed by Luke. She's trying to connect the dots for the jurors. Meanwhile, he's not being super cooperative. He's saying that he doesn't remember certain things that it seems like maybe he admitted to before. So it looks like she's trying to impeach him here and maybe lose his credibility with the jury.
And that's certainly not a good thing, because I do, you know, as we're watching this, we are starting to see some inconsistencies in his statements coming out.
Yeah, I mean, naturally there are, and again, the issue is whether or not these inconsistencies are something that the jury's going to care about, whether or not it's a mistake or whether he's purposely lying, and whether that's going to impact his ability to know what happened when it came to what happened that night.
I do think it's a bit weird, though. I got to tell you that he seems to be confused as to whether there's 2 or 3 people involved, right? Because he seems to remember the event so clearly. I think he'd remember if there were 2 or if there were 3 people involved, right?
I'm not sure I have as much issue as maybe you do, because remember, he can't identify the individuals. He says he sees figures coming, and remember, he sees figures coming as shots are being fired at him and the various people that are there. So you have to keep that in perspective when you think about what he is able to ascertain at the moment it's happening.
Okay, it looks like they're continuing with the cross-examination. That's the defense attorney looking over something with this witness. Let's listen in if we can. All right, so this is the defense attorney cross-examining this witness, Charles Warpagel here. And he's a key witness again because he was the one that was hosting the get-together, and he was describing what happened. But it seems to me, Ashley Dilberto, that the defense attorney, now this might be getting lost on the jurors a little bit, is trying to establish a connection between him and a third alleged gunman in which the defense is trying to pin the entire murder on. Murderers, I should say.
I think that's exactly right. She's trying to establish some reasonable doubt here that it was not the defendant, but maybe this third gunman. What I find really interesting, actually, is that he claims he couldn't see the faces of all the gunmen, except for the one who there was allegedly some kind of flashback when he fired the gun, who had gold teeth and some other characteristics, dreadlocks, that the defendant doesn't seem to have. So I think it seems like that's where the defense attorney is going, and that's going to be some critical evidence and some testimony that I think she's about to get into after she establishes this connection and relationship.
Really quickly, what do we know about this third alleged gunman, Luke Kusokas? What do we know about him?
We don't know anything. That's the oddest thing. It seems that no one wants to touch it, no one wants to broach it, and I keep saying to you, is he going to come in as a witness? Is he
Who is this
cooperating?
guy? Right.
I mean, we know he seems to be the central focus of this whole case.
Of the defense, anyway. They're trying to say he was the gunman. He's the one that committed the murders.
But also, he's the reason that I believe the defendant was there the day before, because there was allegations of a robbery involving Luke Kusokas. So am I saying his name right? So he seems to be tied into everything.
So the question is he going to go on the witness stand? Is he going to be a prosecution witness? Is he going to be a defense witness? And who exactly is this guy? Okay, we have to take a quick break. We'll take you back inside the Florida courtroom when we return. Stay with us.